A child born in medieval Europe had a better chance of surviving war, famine, and disease than reaching old age with a full set of healthy teeth. That sounds impossible today. We live in a world where losing your teeth is often seen as a sign of neglect, poverty, or old age. But for most of human history, losing teeth was as normal as losing hair. It happened to kings. It happened to farmers. It happened to scholars, priests, soldiers, merchants, and emperors. By the time many people reached their 40s, their mouths had become battlefields of infection, pain, and decay. By 50, complete tooth loss was common. And unlike today, there were no dentists waiting to help. No fillings, no root canals, no fluoride toothpaste, no electric toothbrushes, no mouthwash, nothing. If a tooth began to rot, the most common treatment was simple: remove it and hope the pain stopped before the infection killed you. The strange thing is that humans have always cared about their teeth. Archaeologists examining prehistoric skeletons have discovered evidence of people attempting dental treatments thousands of years before written history even began. Some of the oldest known examples come from a Neolithic site in present-day Pakistan, where researchers found teeth that had been drilled using primitive stone tools more than 7,000 years ago. Imagine the pain: no anesthesia, no antibiotics, no understanding of bacteria. Just a person holding still while another human drilled directly into a living tooth using a hand-powered tool. The fact that people endured such procedures tells us something important. Tooth pain was already severe enough to make almost anything seem preferable. The real problem began when humans changed their diet. For most of our existence as hunter-gatherers, dental disease was surprisingly uncommon. Early humans ate tough meats, fibrous plants, nuts, roots, and wild fruits. These foods required heavy chewing, naturally cleaned the teeth, and contained relatively little sugar. Anthropologists studying ancient skulls often find that hunter-gatherers had straighter teeth and fewer cavities than many people living thousands of years later. Then agriculture arrived, and everything changed. Around 12,000 years ago, humans began cultivating grains. Wheat, barley, rice, and maize transformed civilization. They also transformed human mouths. Grains break down into sugars. Sticky carbohydrates cling to teeth. The bacteria living naturally inside the mouth suddenly found themselves surrounded by an endless food supply. They consumed these sugars and released acids that slowly dissolved tooth enamel. For the first time in history, large populations began experiencing widespread tooth decay. Civilization made people richer, safer, and more organized. It also made their teeth worse. Ancient Egypt provides some of the earliest written evidence of this dental catastrophe. Egyptian mummies often display severe tooth wear and extensive decay. Part of the problem came from their bread. Egyptian flour was produced using stone grinding methods that accidentally mixed tiny particles of sand and stone into the food. Every meal became slightly abrasive. Over decades, chewing literally ground the teeth down. By middle age, many Egyptians suffered exposed nerves, abscesses, and extreme dental pain. Medical papyri describe treatments involving honey, herbs, minerals, and strange medicinal pastes. Some may have provided temporary relief. None solved the underlying problem. The Egyptians were not alone. Across the ancient world, people experimented with ways to clean their teeth. The Babylonians chewed the ends of small sticks until they frayed into brush-like fibers. These chewing sticks acted as primitive toothbrushes. Similar practices appeared independently across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. In many regions, specific plants were chosen because their fibers naturally cleaned the teeth and contained antibacterial compounds. One of the most famous examples is the miswak, a tooth cleaning stick used for thousands of years and still popular in parts of the world today. Modern studies have found that some of these traditional cleaning sticks actually contain chemicals that inhibit bacterial growth. In some respects, they worked surprisingly well. Meanwhile, the Greeks and Romans developed their own solutions. Unfortunately, many of them were terrible. Roman writers recommended powders made from crushed bones, oyster shells, charcoal, and even pulverized animal hooves. Some recipes called for burnt eggshells. Others included pumice stone ground into a fine dust. Wealthier Romans sometimes imported exotic ingredients because dental care, like many things in Roman society, became a status symbol. The goal was not only cleanliness but whiteness. Bright teeth signaled health, wealth, and beauty. But Roman dentistry contained one practice so bizarre that it sounds fictional. Some Roman sources praised human urine as a tooth clean ingredient. The reason was chemical. As urine decomposes, it releases ammonia, a compound capable of breaking down stains. To Roman users, it functioned as a crude whitening agent. They did not understand the chemistry. They only observed the results, and so people literally rinsed their mouths with imported urine to achieve a brighter smile. History is full of moments that remind us just how desperate humans can become when trying to solve everyday problems. The collapse of Rome did not improve dental health. If anything, conditions worsened across much of Europe. Medical knowledge fragmented, urban sanitation deteriorated, access to skilled practitioners became limited. For ordinary people living in medieval villages, tooth care was largely a matter of folk remedies and luck. Some chewed herbs believed to freshen the breath. Others rubbed teeth with rough cloths or abrasive powders. Most simply endured whatever happened. The greatest irony of the medieval period was that many of the most educated people in society were also among those most vulnerable to dental problems. Monks, scholars, and scribes spent countless hours reading and writing. They often had access to honey, preserved fruits, and richer diets than ordinary peasants. The sugar content of these foods increased cavity rates. Tooth pain appears repeatedly in medieval letters, medical texts, and monastery records. Some scholars who preserved humanity's knowledge spent their final years unable to eat comfortably because of severe dental disease. And the worst was yet to come. Because in the centuries ahead, humanity would discover a substance that would destroy more teeth than anything before it. Sugar. And when sugar became cheap enough for ordinary people to consume every day, the history of dental disease entered its most devastating chapter. For thousands of years, tooth decay was a problem. After sugar became common, it became a disaster. When Europeans first encountered sugar, it was treated almost like a medicine. Imported from distant lands at enormous expense, sugar was so valuable that wealthy families locked it away in special containers. Kings served it at banquets as a display of power. Apothecaries sold it alongside medicinal herbs. Ordinary people rarely tasted it. In fact, during the Middle Ages, many Europeans would live their entire lives without consuming significant amounts of refined sugar. Then global trade changed everything. The expansion of European empires during the 15th, 16th, and 17th centuries created vast sugar plantations across the Caribbean and the Americas. Millions of tons of sugar began flowing into European markets. Prices fell. Consumption exploded. What had once been a luxury became a daily habit. Tea with sugar, coffee with sugar, cakes, pastries, candies, jams, and desserts. Entire populations suddenly gained access to more sugar than any humans in history had previously consumed. The human mouth was not prepared for this. The bacteria responsible for cavities had always existed. Sugar simply gave them a perfect environment to thrive. Every spoonful became fuel for acid-producing microbes that slowly dissolved enamel and opened pathways into the sensitive inner layers of the teeth. Cavities multiplied, infections spread, toothaches became a near-universal human experience. One country became particularly infamous for the problem: England. By the 18th century, Britain's appetite for sugar had become extraordinary. Historians estimate that sugar consumption increased several thousand% over just a few generations. The wealthy were affected first. In fact, rotten teeth became so common among the upper classes that they unintentionally turned dental decay into a status symbol. If a person had blackened, damaged teeth, It often indicated they could afford large quantities of expensive sugar. Queen Elizabeth I herself was known for severe dental problems caused by her fondness for sweet foods. Foreign visitors frequently commented on the condition of English teeth. The irony was remarkable. The rich consumed the most sugar and suffered the worst dental decay. The poor often had healthier teeth simply because they could not afford sweets. As sugar spread through society, demand for dental treatments exploded. Unfortunately, dentistry as a profession barely existed. Most people seeking relief did not visit a dentist. They visited a barber. The medieval barber performed far more than haircuts. Barbers often carried out minor surgeries, bloodletting, wound treatment, and tooth extractions. The famous red and white barber pole seen outside barber shops today is believed by many historians to originate from this medical role. The red represented blood, the white represented bandages. Imagine entering a small shop in a crowded medieval city. One customer is receiving a haircut, another is having a beard trimmed. Meanwhile, in the corner, a man is preparing to have a decayed tooth pulled, led from his jaw with iron forceps. That was healthcare. The extraction itself was brutal. There were no modern anesthetics. Alcohol sometimes helped dull the pain. More often, patients relied on physical restraint and courage. If the tooth came out cleanly, they were fortunate. If it shattered, fragments could remain embedded in the jaw, causing further infections. Some extractions caused severe bleeding. Others resulted in broken jaws or permanent injuries. Yet people kept returning because the alternative was often worse. A dental abscess can generate pain so intense that it prevents eating, sleeping, or even thinking clearly. Before antibiotics, infections originating in the mouth sometimes spread into the bloodstream and became fatal. A bad tooth was not merely uncomfortable, it could kill. The 18th century saw the first major attempts to transform dentistry into a legitimate medical profession. One of the most important figures was Pierre Fauchard, a French surgeon often called the father of modern dentistry. In 1728, he published a groundbreaking book that challenged many existing myths about dental disease. At the time, many people believed cavities were caused by tiny worms burrowing into teeth. Fauchard rejected this idea and argued that diet and oral hygiene played a significant role. He was centuries ahead of his time. Fauchard also developed improved instruments, described methods for filling cavities, and promoted more scientific approaches to dental treatment. His work laid the foundation for modern dentistry, but progress was slow. Even by the 19th century, many dental procedures remained terrifying. Then came one of the greatest medical breakthroughs in history: pain relief. In 1846, a dentist named William Morton publicly demonstrated the use of ether anesthesia during surgery in Boston. For the first time, major procedures could be performed without unbearable suffering. Dentistry changed almost overnight. Patients who had previously delayed treatment out of fear became more willing to seek help. Complex procedures became possible. The profession gained credibility. Yet a strange problem remained. Even as dentistry improved, people still lacked an effective daily tool for preventing disease in the first place. Most individuals clean their teeth using cloths, powders, toothpicks, or primitive brushes made from animal hair. These methods varied enormously in quality. Some worked reasonably well. Others damaged the teeth more than they helped. The modern toothbrush was still evolving, and its arrival would transform oral health in ways previous generations could scarcely imagine. But before the toothbrush conquered the world, humanity would endure one final century in which dental pain remained among the most common forms of suffering on Earth. Millions of people continued losing teeth in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. Entire sets of dentures became routine, and in some countries it became so common for young adults to lose their teeth that parents began saving money for dentures the same way modern families save for college. The toothbrush was coming, and when it arrived, it would quietly change human life forever. Next part. In the year 1780, the average person expected to lose multiple teeth long before reaching old age. By the year 1980, losing all your natural teeth had become increasingly unusual. Few inventions played a larger role in that transformation than the toothbrush. Ironically, the modern toothbrush was not invented by a dentist. It was invented by a prisoner. In 1770, an Englishman named William Addis was sitting in jail after being arrested for participating in a riot. According to the traditional story, Addis noticed that people cleaned their teeth by rubbing them with cloths covered in soot or salt. He believed there had to be a better way. While imprisoned, he reportedly saved a small animal bone from a meal, drilled tiny holes into it, and inserted bristles taken from a brush. The result was one of the earliest recognizable toothbrushes. Whether every detail of the story is perfectly accurate remains debated by historians, but one thing is certain: Addis later built a successful business manufacturing toothbrushes. His company would survive for generations and help popularize the product throughout Britain. Yet even then, toothbrushes remained far from universal. Many people still viewed them as luxury items. Others simply did not see the need. For centuries, tooth loss had been considered a normal part of life. If everyone around you lost their teeth by middle age, why would you expect a different outcome? The real revolution came during the 19th and 20th centuries, when scientific understanding finally caught up with everyday experience. Researchers began identifying the connection between bacteria, plaque, cavities, and gum disease. Dentists gradually realized that tooth decay was not an unavoidable consequence of aging. It was a preventable condition. This idea seems obvious today. At the time, it was revolutionary. For thousands of years, humanity had accepted dental destruction as inevitable. Suddenly, science suggested something different. Maybe people were not doomed to lose their teeth. Maybe the problem could be prevented before it started. The toothbrush became one of the first lines of defense. Manufacturing improvements made brushes cheaper. Mass production increased availability. New materials improved durability. By the early 20th century, toothbrushes were appearing in homes across Europe and North America. Then another breakthrough arrived: toothpaste. Early tooth cleaning powders had existed for centuries. Ancient Egyptians mixed crushed rock salt, mint, dried flowers, and pepper. Romans experimented with charcoal and abrasive minerals. Medieval Europeans used mixtures that often did more harm than good. Modern toothpaste changed everything. Instead of scraping the teeth with harsh materials, toothpaste was designed to clean effectively while minimizing damage. More importantly, it encouraged regular brushing habits. But the greatest breakthrough of all came from an unexpected source: fluoride. In the early 20th century, researchers studying communities with unusually strong teeth noticed something strange. Certain populations experienced dramatically fewer cavities despite having limited access to modern dentistry. Eventually, scientists discovered that naturally occurring fluoride in drinking water strengthened tooth enamel and reduced decay. The implications were enormous. For the first time in human history, governments possessed a public health tool capable of protecting millions of people simultaneously. Water fluoridation programs spread across many countries during the mid-20th century. Combined with improved toothbrushes, toothpaste, and dental care, cavity rates began falling dramatically. The results were extraordinary. Generations that once expected widespread tooth loss suddenly found themselves reaching old age with most of their natural teeth intact. What had been normal for thousands of years became increasingly rare. Today, many people assume healthy teeth are simply a natural part of life. They are not. They are the result of centuries of accumulated knowledge, scientific discovery, manufacturing innovation, and public health efforts. The average person now spends only a few minutes each day brushing their teeth. 2 minutes in the morning, 2 minutes at night, perhaps a little flossing, perhaps a mouthwash rinse. It feels insignificant. Yet those few minutes represent one of the most successful preventive health practices in human history. The difference between a modern bathroom and the reality faced by most of humanity for thousands of years is difficult to overstate. A medieval farmer suffering from a dental abscess had few options beyond prayer, herbal remedies, and eventually extraction. A Roman merchant with severe tooth decay might rinse his mouth with urine and hope for improvement. An Egyptian laborer could spend years enduring exposed nerves caused by stone-filled bread grinding away his teeth. A wealthy 18th-century aristocrat might lose most of his teeth despite having access to the finest foods money could buy. Meanwhile, a modern teenager can walk into a pharmacy, purchase a toothbrush for a few dollars, and benefit from more dental protection than kings, emperors, and scholars enjoyed throughout most of human history. The contrast is astonishing. And yet there is another twist to this story. The very success of modern dentistry has created a kind of historical amnesia. Because we no longer see widespread tooth loss, we forget how common it once was. Photographs from the 19th century often show people smiling with closed mouths because missing teeth were so widespread. Dentures became a normal milestone of adulthood. Some young women in parts of Europe and America even had healthy teeth removed proactively because full dentures were considered more reliable than waiting for inevitable decay. Think about that for a moment. People voluntarily removed their natural teeth because they expected them to fail anyway. That is how hopeless the situation once seemed. The toothbrush helped change that expectation. Not overnight, not by itself, but gradually, generation after generation. And perhaps that is the most remarkable part of the story. The toothbrush is not a dramatic invention. It did not conquer nations. It did not launch rockets. It did not reshape global politics. Most people barely think about it. Yet this simple tool quietly prevented billions of cavities, spared countless people from agony, reduced infections, extended quality of life, and allowed millions to keep their natural teeth decades longer than their ancestors ever could. History often celebrates kings, generals, and inventors of great machines. But sometimes the inventions that change human life, most profoundly, are the ones sitting unnoticed on a bathroom sink. For most of human history, losing your teeth before old age was normal. Today, keeping them is normal. That transformation did not happen by accident. It happened because somewhere along the way, humanity finally discovered that a few bristles on a small handle could accomplish something generations had considered impossible. It could stop one of the oldest problems in human history before it started. And every morning when you pick up a toothbrush without thinking about it, you are holding the solution to a problem that haunted humanity for thousands of years.